everyone. Today is the third day of our 21 days of prayer and fasting. And I'm sure that if whatever you're giving up, you're starting to really experience that loss, that lack. Sometimes for me, the third day is like one of the toughest ones. But I'm sure that you guys are sticking in there and just really focusing in on what God has for you. Today, I want to talk with you about God's plan. We're going to look at a verse that I'm sure you've heard before. It's a very often quoted part of Scripture, and it's found in Jeremiah chapter 29. And this is what it says in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you. This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your well-being, not for your disaster. Plans to give you a future and to give you hope. You will call to me and you will come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and you will find me when you search for me with all your heart. And so this is the very often quoted scripture where people will say, oh, well, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And people get really excited about that verse in particular. And it is something to be excited about. But sometimes people don't always know the depth of the context in which this declaration was made. This declaration was made to the people of Israel during some of their most difficult times of captivity. They were in a foreign land with the Babylonians. And while they were in Babylon, they were in this foreign land. They didn't have all the same comforts they always experienced. They were not where they really were meant to be. They ended up in that situation because of kind of falling away from the things that God had told them to do. And once they got into that land, there was a lot of immediate negatives that they started experiencing. And so while experiencing those negatives, they're in the middle of that pain. They're in the middle of that difficulty of being captives in a foreign country. And they're sitting there, and then what God says to them is, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And so that's the difficult part for us, is that we say, well, God has a plan. God knows what he's doing. And we quote out that scripture. But can you imagine being one of the Israelites in the middle of that situation? You're currently in captivity. There's negatives all around you. Things are more difficult now than they've ever been. And then God comes out and he has a prophet tell you, don't worry, I know the plans I have for you. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. For me, it's very difficult to say, okay, yeah, God's got it under control whenever I'm in the middle of that struggle. When I'm in the middle of those things, that's when it's easiest to take your eyes off of God and put your eyes on the problem. And the truth of the matter is that the fact that God knows, that is something that should comfort us. But then it's like, well, God, if you know what's going on, if you know the plans, why is this happening? Why is this negative coming up in my life? Now, there's a lot of schools of thought on, well, does God allow, does God do this? Because I'm not going to say that God takes that trouble and he puts it in your life. But what I am going to say is that God knew it was coming. He knows how to work things together for your good. That's what the scripture says. It says, in all things, God works for the good of those that are called according to his purpose. So that means he plans it all out. He gets the blueprint. He works it from front to back. And he says, this is going to be a difficult season for her or for him or for whoever. And they're going to struggle. But I can take that and I can make that into something. I can take that and I can grow them because of that. Paul says that perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And so if we persevere in that struggle, if we persevere in that problem, eventually we will see God's plan come to fruition. So God said, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and to give you a future. And that promise for the Israelites is a promise for you today. Trust God's plan, search after him with all your heart, and you will find him. God bless you, Crystal River Church of God.